Recording in progress.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the May 17th, 2023 Planning Commission meeting. My name is Tamara Blake Wallace, and I am the Planning Commission Administrator. This meeting will be conducted both in person and hybrid. At this time, I will turn the meeting over to Chris Goldsmith, Development Review Coordinator, to go over the rules and etiquette for tonight's meeting.
Good evening, I'm Chris Goldsmith. I will be acting as your moderator this evening. This meeting is being recorded on both video and audio for record-keeping purposes. For those attending virtually or on your phone, please keep yourself muted to ensure no interruptions to the evening. If asked to speak and you are attending on your phone, you can mute and unmute yourself by using the phone's designated mute button or by pressing *6. If you are on a computer, you can mute and unmute yourself by clicking on the microphone/mute button on the toolbar in your bottom left of your screen. You can also mute and unmute by using keyboard shortcuts. On a Windows computer, press Alt-A, and on a Mac, press Command-Shift-A. When questions or comments are requested of the public, those attending in person will be asked to speak first, and those attending virtually will speak after. If you're attending via phone and would like to ask a question or make comment, when asked, please use the raise hand function, *9, and you'll be called upon in turn to identify yourself for the record and speak. If you're attending virtually and would like to ask a question or make comment, please go to the chat icon on your Zoom page and type your comment into that section. Finally, please say your name every time you speak for the benefit of those calling in who cannot see you.
Thank you, Chris. At this time, I will turn the meeting over to the chairman.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us for the Calvert County Planning Commission's May 17th, 2023 regular meeting. My name is Maria Bueller, and as chair of this board, we will now begin with item 1 on the proposed agenda. Roll call. Vice Chair Kernan.
Here.
Commissioner Gadway.
Here.
Commissioner Freeland.
Here.
Commissioner Toohey.
Here.
Commissioner Dr. Holler.
Here.
Commissioner Williams.
Here.
All right, we have a quorum. If you could all please stand with me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next on the agenda, item 3, we will have action on the proposed agenda.
Motion to approve. Second.
I have a motion by Commissioner Kernan, seconded by Commissioner Toohey. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Next on the agenda is item 4, action on the proposed summary of actions. The first one we have is item 4A, the April 19th, 2023 joint public hearing.
Motion to approve.
Second.
I have a motion to approve by Commissioner Kernan, seconded by Commissioner Gadway. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Item 4B, the April 19th, 2023 regular Planning Commission meeting.
Motion to approve. Second.
Motion to approve by Commissioner Toohey, seconded by Commissioner Kernan. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Item number 5 on the agenda, recognitions of persons attending the meeting. Tonight, we have present with us from Planning and Zoning, Director Mary Beth Cook. We have Jenny Plummer-Walker, Long Range Planner. We have Jay Cousineau, Planner 2. We have Jesse Clark, Planner 1. From Department of Public Works, we have J.R. Cosgrove, Acting Director of Public Works. We have Jason Leavitt, Project Engineer, Capital Projects Division. From the County Administrator's Office, we have Danielle Russell, Grants Management Specialist. From Park and Rec, we have Director Shannon Azal. Also in attendance with us tonight is Becky Parkinson, our Planning Commission Recording Clerk. And serving as legal counsel tonight will be Pam Lucas. Next on the agenda will be item 6, major subdivisions for final review and action. There are none tonight. Item 7, applications for site plan review and actions. There are none tonight. Item number 8, major subdivision applications for preliminary review and action. There will be none tonight. Item 9, we do not have anything for long-range planning. And that brings us to item 10, items for discussion and/or action. Item 10A, we have Calvert County Sustainable Communities Designation Renewal.
Good evening, Commissioners.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Jenny Plummer-Welker, Long Range Planner with Calvert County Planning and Zoning. I'm joined this evening by Danielle Russell, who was just introduced by Mrs. Tamara Blake, but I'd like to give you a little more background on her biography for you. She graduated from Patuxent High School in 2008. She earned her bachelor's degree in history and archaeology at Lycoming College in Williamsport, Pennsylvania. She completed her master's in library and information science from Simmons College, now University, in Boston, Massachusetts. But I understand that was online, so you stayed in the county. So except for her time in Williamsport, Pennsylvania, she's a lifelong Calvert County resident. And she lives in Lusby with her husband and 3 children. And before coming to the county government in November of 2022, she worked at the Southern Maryland Study Center at College of Southern Maryland, and then most recently with the Calvert County Health Department, the Behavioral Health Division. And as the grants specialist and data specialist, she has over 10 years of experience working with records, metadata, and grants, and 5 years of direct experience with grants management. So we're very pleased that she has joined the county staff. I will turn it over to Danielle. And I'm also very pleased that she's taken over the Sustainable Communities application process. I originally shepherded this process in 2012 and 2013 when we originally sought our designation, and then the renewal in 2018. So on to 2023. Danielle.
Good evening, Commissioners.
Good evening.
Good evening.
At the request of the County Administrator, I'm coordinating the Sustainable Communities Designation Renewal process with assistance from the previous Designation Renewal Coordinator, Jenny Plummer-Welker. Wrong direction. The Sustainable Communities Act of 2010 established a framework for reinvestment and revitalization of Maryland's existing communities, creating a single, locally designated geographic focus area. Since that time, the Sustainable Communities designation has provided an efficient means of targeting scarce public and private resources for multiple state agency investments and prioritizations. The Maryland Sustainable Community designation for Calvert County will sunset on August 21st, 2023. Calvert County was first designated on August 21st, 2013, and the designation must be renewed every 5 years. The designation provides benefits from the state, including the opportunity to access an interagency revitalization toolbox of financing programs and tax incentives. The designation allows local governments, businesses, and homeowners to access a number of the state's grants, loans, and tax credits. In the agenda, there is a link to a 2-page benefits flyer from the state. A range of benefits include grants, tax credits, and loans from several Maryland state departments, including the Department of Environment, Department of Housing and Community Development, and the Department of Transportation. These are a list of some of the approved benefits. I'm going to highlight Strategic Demolition Fund. This provides grants and loans to local governments and community development organizations in sustainable communities for pre-development activities, including demolition and land assembly for housing and revitalization projects. Sidewalk Retrofit Program. This program helps finance the construction and replacement of sidewalks along state highways by covering 50% of the cost for approved projects. The program covers 100% of the cost for projects located in sustainable communities. Enhanced Local Tax Increment Financing Authority enables designated sustainable communities to issue bonds to finance public improvements and expands the permitted use of tax increment financing beyond traditional public infrastructure. Sustainable community area boundaries must be entirely within a priority funding area and should be an area in need of renewal and reinvestment that would benefit from a targeted long-term strategy. The proposed sustainable community is within or near a town center or transportation center, or there is a need for financing assistance for small businesses, nonprofit organizations, or micro enterprises. The Sustainable Communities designation must be renewed every 5 years. This renewal application provides an opportunity for local governments to update their existing action plan and report on the accomplishments made over the past 5 years. Through the renewal process, local governments can request additional technical assistance and highlight any areas from the original action plan for which progress must still be made. County departments and municipal staff are currently preparing a draft report of accomplishments in their topic or geographic areas and preparing an updated Sustainable Communities Action Plan. Plan elements must include environment, economy, transportation, housing, community health and quality of life, and local planning and staffing capacity. Approval of applications will be made by the Governor's Smart Growth Coordinating Committee on the recommendation of an interagency review team. The review team is coordinated by the Department of Housing and Community Development. The Governor's Smart Growth Coordinating Committee can defer the approval of a Sustainable Communities renewal to the Governor's Smart Growth Subcabinet. The next 2 slides are a brief look at some of our highlighted projects from our draft report. So these are the accomplishments from the last 5 years. Millions of dollars in COVID-19 grant funds, improved opioid services throughout the county, decreased the percentage of residents paying over 30% of their housing costs, adopted the comprehensive plan in 2019 and amended it in 2022, upgraded transportation, public water, public sewerage, and solid waste infrastructure, including new water lines in Prince Frederick, improvements in widening of Dowell Road and Fairgrounds Road, in North Beach, the creation of Stormwater and Flood Mitigation Committee. Parks and Recreation received their CAPRA accreditation, updated the 5-year Land Preservation Parks and Recreation Plan, completed the master plan for the Harriet E. Brown Community Center and Park. Chesapeake Beach Fishing Creek Channel was dredged to maintain open access, and they completed the site selection and planning for the new Twin Beach Library branch, where construction is currently underway. Do you have any questions?
I do. On slide 7, it talks about the different designated sustainable community areas. Is there a particular reason why it's just limited to those 6? And in the supporting documents, there was what's called a CDP when it talked about the demographic breakdowns of the areas. The CDP is known as a census designated place, is that right?
Yes.
Does it have to be inside that place for approval? Because it seemed to me like in the demographics on the spreadsheets, the CDP seemed like it was a small percentage of the populations in that Prince Frederick area or Huntingtown area or whatever.
So I'll take a couple of your questions, hopefully in order. So the census designated place there's a minimum threshold that the Census Bureau requires for a census designated place, a CDP. And for town centers with a bit larger population like Prince Frederick and Solomons, it follows fairly closely the town center boundaries, but for others like Dunkirk or Huntingtown, St. Leonard, we had to go a bit further out beyond the town center in order to capture enough population when we initially had requested those to be designated by the Census Bureau. The map that's in front on slide 7, it's those 6. So as you know, the comprehensive plan, we have 7 town centers that come under the county's control, plus the 2 municipalities equal 9. We originally requested from the state in 2012 all of the 7 town centers plus the 2 municipalities and the industrial zoned land. The state asked us to focus a little more, and so with the state's negotiation between the state and the county, we came upon the town centers that have public or private sewer. So the 2 municipalities, Dunkirk, which has private, not public sewer, Prince Frederick, Lusby, and Solomons, the state asked us to further refine the proposed designated areas for Chesapeake Beach and Prince Frederick. They thought that those were a bit too large for what the Sustainable Communities is intending, which is like renewal. And so we worked with the state to reduce the size of both Prince Frederick and Chesapeake Beach. So Chesapeake Beach includes a strip of land along Maryland 260 that goes down to, I'm going to forget the official name, Brownies Beach, Bayfront Park. And for Prince Frederick, it includes the strip of land that goes down Maryland 24. So you see those kind of stems. on each.
So are the benefits available, for example, from what I understand, the Prince Frederick Town Center is not the Prince, or the CDP is within the town center or part of the town, and that's where the benefits would be available?
So the census designated place is really not, it's a geographic area where the Census Bureau tracks data like population and housing. It does not have any direct relation with the state's designation. In order to be a sustainable community, a community first must be a priority funding area. So all of the current Prince Frederick Town Center boundary is a PFA, but not all of the town center is a sustainable community.
It is amazing. Every time I talk to you, Ms. Plummer-Welker, I feel more intelligent. Thank you.
I would like to point out.
Very good education.
Well, thank you. I would like to point out that Jennifer Moreland, the Director of Community Resources, would eventually, once the town center boundary is expanded to the southeast to include Calvert Town and Symphony Woods, which was the adopted and remained in the 2022 amendments. Once that area is included in the town center, there's a process for the Planning and Zoning Department to petition the Maryland Department of Planning to expand our PFA, priority funding area. And once that is done, then the county could seek expansion to include the Calvert Town Symphony Woods area as a sustainable community. MDP does not approve PFA areas. They just basically agree, or what is it called? Comment or not comment? But the sustainable community designation is actually a formal designation process. So
Thank you so much.
You're welcome, anytime.
Will we be using sustainable community grant, the strategic demolition, to demolish the armory?
We have talked to the Department of Housing and Community Development, so it is an avenue that we can look at, yes.
So we have that before us this evening. Are you applying for the grant?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
We have any other questions, comments? If not, I don't believe any action is being requested on this item.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
very
Thank
much.
you, and welcome to the county
Thank you.
government.
Yep.
Appreciate it. Thank you for all you do.
Thank you.
Thank you, Danielle and Jenny. Next on the agenda is item 10B, Program Open Space Annual Program for FY 2024, Department of Parks and Recreation.
Good evening, Commissioners. Shannon Nazal, Director of Parks and Recreation. I do not have a presentation, so I will read through the memo real quick and answer any questions that you may have. So this would be for the Program Open Space Annual Program for fiscal year 2024. Calvert County is required to submit a Program Open Space Annual Program to the Maryland Department of Natural Resources and Maryland Department of Planning each year before July 1st in order to remain eligible for Program Open Space funds. The annual program includes proposed acquisition and development projects. A project is not eligible for Program Open Space funding unless it is listed in the annual program. The municipalities may submit their programs through their county, and Calvert County submits municipal projects on behalf of the towns of Chesapeake Beach and North Beach. County staff works with the towns in preparing the annual program. There are more projects listed in the annual program that are ever likely to be funded, given available resources. Listing a project does not constitute a commitment on the part of the Board of County Commissioners or the municipalities, and the list can be amended at any time. Title III, Section 3-205 of the Land Use Article of the Maryland Annotated Code specifies certain types of projects may not be constructed or authorized in the local jurisdiction until approved by the Planning Commission as consistent with the comprehensive plan. Types of public projects include streets, squares, parks, or other public ways, grounds or open spaces, public buildings or structures, and utilities. There are 3 documents for review. That includes the fiscal year 2024 program open space annual program projects, consistency with comprehensive plan in draft form. The Calvert County fiscal year 2024 program open space annual program in draft form, which I will explain. There is a slight change on page 2 of that document in regards to the date of the Land Preservation Parks and Recreation Plan. It was last adopted November of 2022. And then where it says that the plan has 4 goals and 14 recommendations, it is actually 19 recommendations, not 14. And then also the Calvert County fiscal year 2024 program open space annual program projects descriptions in draft form. And the FY24 program open space annual program is scheduled to be presented to the Board of County Commissioners on June 13th, 2023 for approval and authorization to submit them to the state. Conclusion and recommendation, review and approve the FY24 program open space annual program projects as it's consistent with the Calvert County Comprehensive Plan adopted in 2019 and amended in 2022, and recommend that the Board of County Commissioners approve the fiscal year 2024 program open space annual program. I'll answer any questions you may have. Commissioner Gadway.
Congratulations on the CAPRA designation from last year. You guys really earned that.
Thanks, sir.
And looking at the draft, you guys are really going to be trying to hold on to that for a long time into the future, correct?
Yes, so the accreditation through CAPRA, which is the Commission on Accreditation of Parks and Recreation Agencies. So similar to the Sustainable Communities, it's every 5 years that we go for that. So we're already working and making sure that all of our documents are ready to go for our next submittal for accreditation.
And looking at all the stuff that you guys have as possible plans, it's exciting to see. So thank you.
You're welcome, sir.
Shannon,
Yes, sir.
water access, I know that's one of your priorities.
Yes, sir.
What's the status of the state property at Howling Point?
So that project, we are currently in conversations with Department of Natural Resources with the state. They are the state's oversight for that state-owned property at this time. They have a master plan that they've completed for that project, and there are conversations going back and forth on how that's going to look in the future. I know that there are concerns about water and sewer access at that parcel and how that would work. And the state has requested county support, and that's still in conversation.
So that would not be something that you would include as a project on this list?
No, it would not be included in the program open space annual program plan because we would not expect to expend program open space funds on that.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other comments, questions? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
Madam Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we approve the 2024 Program Open Space Annual Program and find that it's consistent with the Calvert County Comprehensive Plan. In addition, I'd like to move that we recommend the Board of County Commissioners approve such. Second.
I have a motion by Commissioner Tui, a second by Commissioner Kernan. A discussion point, does your motion include the 2 corrections as noted?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, okay.
Thank you.
Does that
Yes.
still stand?
Yes.
All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Shannon. Next on the agenda is item 10C, the Armory Building, Prince Frederick, request for approval to obtain a building/demolition permit.
Good evening, Planning Commissioners. My name is Jason Levitt. I'm a project engineer with the Department of Public Works Capital Projects Division. On behalf of the Board of County Commissioners, the purpose of my presence this evening is to seek permission from the Calvert County Planning Commission for the ability to obtain a grading permit in conjunction with a building and demolition permit in order to raise the existing Armory building in Prince Frederick. Pursuant to Prince Frederick Town Center zoning ordinance tenet Roman numeral number 1, natural features, subsection A, grading and clearing. Grading and clearing permits may not be issued prior to site plan or subdivision approval. Exceptions may be granted provided that, and we're going to be using exception number 2, the issues related to the protection of natural features are deemed by the Planning Commission to have been satisfactorily addressed in a pending subdivision plat or site plan. So now I'm going to go through the presentation a little bit, which if you got the plan set, it's going to look pretty familiar to you. So the first page is just the cover sheet. The second sheet is the existing condition plan. The address is 175 Armory Road in Prince Frederick. And you'll notice on there that there is the existing Armory building itself. There's a smaller structure over to the southwest, which I believe is some type of pump station. There is a fuel tank, and then further over to the right, there is a long rectangular building which currently is being used by the county as a storage facility. So this demolition plan really encompasses part of the site. It doesn't request to demolish all of the structures. We're looking to take down the Armory itself, remove the sidewalk, remove the pump station facility, and install a new fence. The reasoning for the installation of the fence is to maintain a secure area for the county file storage at this point in time. It's important to note that this application proposes no disturbance to the existing forested areas, the waters of the U.S., the non-tidal wetlands, or their associated buffers. We have a limit of disturbance of approximately 0.31 acres. And so far through the process, since we already submitted it, we have received approvals from the Soil Conservation District, and we've received an approved pre-application for forest conservation from the Department of Planning and Zoning and Environmental Group, for a couple reasons. Number one, we're not disturbing or removing any of the forested area on site with this demolition plan, and they're going to get another crack at it when it comes in as a site plan. Because assuming everything goes to plan, it is likely going to be a Class 1 plan, so that means you guys will get another crack at it at that point also. I'd like to highlight some of the existing issues, or the existing building issues that sort of went into the demolition justification. So the building completely needs to be rejuvenated. It doesn't have HVAC. It's going to need a new roof. It's going to need new flooring, interior updates, etc. There's remediation required for both asbestos and lead paint on the inside of the building. It does not meet current ADA criteria, and the CMU wall on the north side is failing and likely will require complete replacement. Demolition of the existing structures and removal of the impervious areas as illustrated in the accompanying plan sets the stage for progress toward permitting and construction of a multi-use open-air pavilion funded through a grant from the Rural Maryland Economic Development Fund, which is overseen by the Maryland Department of Commerce. Theoretical uses for said pavilion include, but are not limited to, farmers markets, community events, ice skating in the wintertime, concerts, festivals, civic engagement, an outdoor classroom, and an area providing workshop classes for University of Maryland Extension, soil conservation, the Master Gardener programs, etc. So just to give you a little bit of an idea of where we are on that part of the project, because I know in the past there's been somewhat of a hesitancy to approve a plan, grading permit for a plan that does not have a site plan yet. So the grants that we have applied for do have a sunset date on them, and I believe that it's 2 years. So we basically are trying to get ahead of the curve a little bit on this by requesting this demolition at this point. We also have issued a request for proposal to our 4 on-call architectural firms that was done on April 21st. We had a site visit where they all came down and looked at the site, and Director Oberg from Economic Development was there to sort of flesh out her idea. All 4 firms showed up this was on May 3rd. And then basically the extent of the request for proposal includes a conceptual, architectural, aesthetic, and then building layouts, parking, entrances, concept stormwater management. Pretty much the reasoning for that level of detail in the RFP is just to wrap our heads around the current construction prices and to see what actually can be constructed for the money that's included in the grant. We anticipate proposals to be received in the next 7 to 10 days, and then this project will, like I said again, return to this commission for future approval, as it will be classified as a Category 1 site plan, assuming we have enough money to build what we want to build at this point. There's a couple other elements that I think are of import to mention at this point. So there will be design inclusion of some of the existing building elements. Number 1, there is an MNG, Maryland National Guard, concrete monument on the south facade of the building. It's a large concrete slab. So in the demolition details, I'll say, we are going to attempt to save that so that that can be used in some capacity for something in the new design, whether it's a step or a monument type thing or something of that nature. There are to be 6 pallets of bricks saved from the building itself, and they're going to be cleaned, so we're going to try to use them also in another design capacity. I don't have the details for that at this point in time. That's kind of what we hired the architects for, to incorporate that, but we just wanted to make them aware that there are going to be elements of this building that we would like to utilize in the new design. And then lastly, there are discussions with the appropriate veterans interest groups slated to occur regarding placement of a possible monument or the creation of a suitable tribute to the Armory building's historical impact in the county. So it's not 100% accounted for at this moment in time, but it is something that's on the radar that we definitely believe is of importance to include with the design moving forward. As far as the grants go, grants for design, permitting, and construction have been obtained, and staff is currently working on a grant application, Mr. Freeland, for the demolition asbestos remediation cost. Now open to any questions that you all may have.
Mr. Levitt,
Yes,
thank you
sir.
for coming in this evening. The storage buildings that are existing on the south side of the property,
Mm-hmm.
while they're not included in your demolition plan here, I'm assuming at some point they are going to be, or are they going to be, the long-term plan on that is what?
At this point in time, they're going to remain. They're going to get a pretty significant facelift, but depending on what the uses are for the pavilion, in working with planning and zoning staff, we've identified a relatively open-ended use that allows us to host multiple different types of uses, opportunities within the pavilion. So we think that it would be of benefit at this point to maintain that space for like an ancillary use to one of the uses that may be actually taking place in the pavilion. So the intent at this point is to keep that building, to give it a facelift, but to utilize that space in the future.
And aesthetically, they are dated, and
Yes.
I'm excited to hear about the facelift.
Me too.
But the hazard materials are not in those storage unit buildings as they are in the armory itself?
Not to my knowledge.
Okay,
I'd have to double check with CJ on that, but I don't believe there are any of those materials in there.
Gotcha.
If they are, of course, they will go through the same process and
Right.
be remediated as such.
super, thank you.
Any other questions, comments? I will entertain a motion. The motion will need to include that we find the protection of natural features has been addressed also.
Motion to approve the request and find that the protection of natural features has been satisfactorily addressed.
Second.
I have a motion by Commissioner Freeland, seconded by Commissioner Gadway. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you, Jason. Next on the agenda is item 10D, proposed date change to the Planning Commission regular meeting, August 16th, 2023 to August 23rd, 2023, and the Mako Conference will be held on the 16th through the 19th of August in Ocean City, Maryland. Just to give you a little bit of background, there's a winter and summer Mako Conference held each year in Ocean City, Maryland. This year in 2023, the summer conference will be held on August 16th through the 19th, 2023, during the same time frame as the Planning Commission's regularly scheduled meeting for August 16th, 2023. The discussion on this is to allow the Planning Commission members to attend the Mako Summer 2023 conference. Staff is seeking direction from the Planning Commission to allow a possible change to the Planning Commission regular meeting from Wednesday, August the 16th. And we do have on the memo Wednesday, August the 23rd, but we have just been notified today that the HEB is not going to be available that day. So if there's another date that you all would maybe like to suggest, or some of our next steps for this would be the Planning Commission may elect to change one of the following actions. Make no change and leave the Planning Commission regular meeting on August 16th, 2023 as originally scheduled. Direct staff to reschedule the Planning Commission regular meeting from August 16th to a date that you all prefer. The third is to suggest an alternative date other than August the 23rd, and like I just said, to vote to reschedule on that date, or to combine the August 16th meeting into the September 20th Planning Commission meeting and hold no meeting in August. So at this time,
Did I understand you to say that the 23rd of August was not available?
the HEB is not available. We would have to either find another facility, or we can do another date that you all would possibly prefer.
I would prefer to keep a meeting in August on either the 9th or the 30th, if that would be available, and people willing.
Do we have an availability schedule?
I don't have one in front of me right now, but we can check those dates.
Can this be tabled till
Sure
next
can.
month?
Sure can.
And see if both dates are available.
The 9th or the 30th.
Okay.
Can we keep it on the 16th and do virtual?
I mean, that's another option that you all can entertain.
I'd like to make a motion to keep the planning commission regular meeting on August 16th and make that virtual.
Second.
I have a motion by Commissioner Williams, seconded by Commissioner Freeland.
For discussion.
Oh, any discussion?
Yes. If that's gonna be virtual and we're going to be pulled in multiple directions on the 16th, because that is the start date of Mako, and for anyone going to that would not be able to participate in some of the events during Mako or some of the classes or schedules.
It looks like the schedule is
Commissioner Gatway, the schedule is attached.
Right.
And Wednesday that day, the activities for that day end at 4:30. As of the
How many
tentative schedule.
How many planning commission members are planning on, I mean, I know I'm planning on going. There's a couple or three, or, I'm just curious, because,
I think we have right now just 2.
okay.
What about staff? Are they, staff attend?
Yes,
Mako
staff will
also.
be attending.
So would it provide a technical problem to have if we have our people that are running a meeting in Ocean City, not here?
It would probably be all virtual, or we would leave probably the next day. The
What's that?
technical staff would be here.
Oh, okay,
Yeah,
thank you
yeah,
so
they-
much.
Yeah, they would be here.
I forgot the door was there.
Yeah. They would be here. That would probably prompt, I would probably leave the following morning, and Becky, but we could work that out where we could have a substitute here if need be.
It seems to me like the hassles of trying to do a virtual, or allowing for the virtual, when multiple different people are going to be attending the conference would prove to be difficult. For example, although technical staff may be here, some of the other county staff, the attorneys and/or some of the other people here may not be as well. Like you had said, you'd be having to leave a day late.
Well, we have a motion and a second, so we'll call the vote. All those in favor?
Would you repeat the motion, please?
The motion is to keep the August 16th meeting and have it virtual, completely virtual. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I'm going to do a roll call vote. Vice Chair Kernan?
Aye.
Commissioner Gadway?
No.
Commissioner Freeland?
Yes.
Commissioner Tui?
No.
Commissioner Dr. Holler?
No.
Commissioner Williams?
Yes.
I got a tie vote,
Yes.
3-3. I'm going to vote no.
I'd like to make a motion that we table this to next month's meeting so we can find out available dates.
Second.
A motion by Commissioner Gadway to table, seconded by Commissioner Tui. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
All right, thank you. Next on the agenda are items of interest. Before you, you have the site plan and subdivision application list. There is no action required, but I will entertain any questions or comments that you have on the list. Okay, hearing none, we will now move the meeting to the public comment section. I will turn this over to our moderator for tonight to begin that.
We do not have anybody online at this time.
Okay. Is there anybody in the public that would like to speak? Yes, sir.
My name is Bob Estes. I'm a resident of Prince Frederick. And since I'm not allowed to ask a question, I would suggest that if I were allowed to ask a question, I would wonder how many things on that wonderful list of things we might do for recreation in the county we actually do get done on average. That's the question I would ask if I were allowed to.
Thank you.
Okay, there does not seem to be anybody else for public comment, so we will move on to item 13, the 2023 Planning Commission Annual Meeting. And I will start the meeting off with a staff memo of the overview of 2022. So as you are aware, tonight is our Planning Commission Annual Meeting, and we have it broken down into 4 sections tonight. It's going to be an overview, which I will do. We will review the operating documents, and we will also review the 2022 Development Review Annual Report, review of the Planning Commission and the Development Review accomplishment, and then we will have elections of officers. I will make a note that item 13D is a duplicate of 13C. So with that being said, I will start with an overview. The Planning Commission's current bylaws, Article 3-F, adopted December 14th, 2021, requires the Planning Commission to meet annually in May at either a regular or a special meeting to review the prior year work and progress made on implementation of the Calvert County Comprehensive Plan. The information provided in this document covers the 2022 calendar year and offers a detailed accounting of the work performed by the Planning Commission and the Department of Planning and Zoning staff under delegated authority. Some of this information will be included in the report submitted to the Planning Commission to the Maryland Department, by the Planning Commission to the Department of Planning, which is required annually by the Annotated Code of Maryland, Land Use Section 1-207. Staff has begun preparing the annual report, and a draft is anticipated to be included on the Planning Commission's June 21st, 2023 regular meeting agenda package for review and approval. The work responsibilities of the Planning Commission and/or staff can be divided into 4 basic categories. The first being planning, the second zoning, the third development review, and the fourth would be administrative. In reviewing the document in PDF, hyperlinks were added where applicable to allow for quick access to specific agenda item documents. In conclusion, this document is provided to the Planning Commission for informational purposes, and if acceptable by the Planning Commission, they may direct staff to send the 2022 Planning Commission Annual Report to the Board of County Commissioners for review. So I will be reviewing that annual report, giving a summary of it in a few minutes as we go down the annual meeting agenda. Next on the agenda, we have item 13B, which is the review of the operating documents. We have the bylaws and we have the rules and procedures. And the Planning Commission also has a contested case document also. But tonight, there are no changes proposed by staff to the bylaws. There are a few changes that staff has recommended for the rules and procedures. And basically, those changes would be for the public hearings, section 2-201, under the order of business. And that is basically to bring the agenda consistent with the Board of County Commissioners' public hearing agenda. It does cause some confusion when we are doing our public hearing because our agendas are different. So this is just to align those changes with the Board of County Commissioners. So at this time, we'll entertain discussion and review of the bylaws and the rules and procedures by the Planning Commission.
I appreciate the suggested edits on the rules of procedures, and I'm in full agreement on those. A couple of quick items in the bylaws. I would be up for, well, I'm going to back off on that one for a second. Article 4, paragraph C states that regular meetings of the Planning Commission shall be usually held. And I'm not a big fan of putting a definitive word and a suggestive word in the same sentence when it comes to a meeting. I don't know if that was something as an error, but shall means it must be, and usually means a suggestion. So just food for thought on that. And then additionally, going through the bylaws, it does suggest, or does state in paragraph K, that subject to recusal or conflicts of interest, the chairperson is eligible to vote on all motions. I would like to discuss or look at why it's current practice that the chair only votes to break a tie. And in doing so, at times has created motions to carry, circumstances where motions have carried with less than a majority present vote.
Okay. Is that all the discussion on the bylaws?
Anyone else have any comments, questions?
Okay. Pam, would you like to address?
Yes, good afternoon, Pam Lucas, Associate County Attorney, sitting in for John Mattingly, who was unable to be here this evening. With respect to your concerns, Commissioner Gadway, it may be productive for the Planning Commission to perhaps convene a subcommittee of the Planning Commission, consisting of obviously less than a quorum of the Planning Commission members, to further discuss your concerns with respect to whether or not a chairperson should indeed be, if I understand your question correctly, should be able to vote or should vote, other than for purposes of breaking a tie. It may be conducive for discussions with the larger board if a subcommittee has an opportunity to discuss it and bring a recommendation back to the full board. Certainly there are a number of pros and cons with respect to that, and that may be something that the subcommittee can discuss with council during their meetings, if indeed the planning commission opts to go that route. Obviously, we can't make any, the planning commission can't make any decisions tonight because it has to be, any changes or proposed changes need to be circulated amongst the planning commission members, and also there needs to be 30 days notice. So with that said,
I really like the idea of a subcommittee. Thank you. Good suggestion.
And staff can work with you in setting that subcommittee up.
Okay. Do we need a formal motion to,
Yes, I
okay,
I'd like to make a motion that we ask staff to set up a subcommittee of a less than a quorum of the planning commission to discuss possible bylaw changes relating to voting procedures.
Okay.
Second.
I have a motion by Commissioner Gadway, seconded by Commissioner Freeland. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
All right. And next we have the rules and procedure for discussion.
I appreciate the changes that were made here. Anybody have any questions or comments?
No.
Do we
Do you
have-
need a motion?
Do you need a formal motion?
Yes. Mhm.
Motion to accept the rules of procedure changes as suggested by staff.
Second.
I have a motion by Commissioner Kernan, seconded by Commissioner Gadway. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
All right, thank you. Next on the agenda is item 13C, the 2022 Development Review Annual Report. And this is the review by the Planning Commission and Development Review accomplishments. Before we get started, I would like to thank all staff that worked in providing the information needed, and a special thank you to Jesse Clark, Planner One, who's in the audience with us tonight, who diligently worked to put this report together. As previously stated, the Planning Commission's current bylaws require the Planning Commission to meet annually in May to review the prior year's work and progress made on implementing the Calvert County's comprehensive plan. The information provided in this annual report covers the 2022 calendar year and gives a detailed accounting of the work that has been performed by the Planning Commission and the Department of Planning and Zoning staff under delegated authority. As I stated, some of this information will be included in the Maryland Department of Planning report as required annually by the Annotated Code of Maryland, Land Use Section 1-207. And staff has, like I stated, begun working on this report, so you will see a draft of this report in June. Work responsibilities of the Planning Commission or the staff can be divided into the 4 basic categories that I listed previously, which are planning, zoning, development review, and administration. As previously stated, one of the objectives of the annual meeting is to review the progress made with implementing the goals and objectives of the comprehensive plan. We'll start with planning. The comprehensive plan was adopted in 2019. Work sessions were held by the Board of County Commissioners on June 7th and June 28th, 2022, to discuss whether to pursue amending the plan. The BOCC directed staff to retain the future expansions for Dunkirk, Owings, and St. Leonard Town Centers as described in the comprehensive plan and pursue amending the Huntingtown, Prince Frederick, Lusby, and Solomons Town Centers. At the August regular meeting, the Planning Commission directed staff to send amendments out to the agencies for review and schedule a public hearing and notify agencies and adjoining jurisdictions of the upcoming hearing. On November 2nd, a public hearing was held by the Planning Commission on the proposed amendments. At the conclusion of the public hearing, and the record was closed, and the Planning Commission voted to accept the proposed amendments and to proceed forward for BOCC approval. The BOCC approved these amendments on November 29th, 2022. After receiving their comments and closing the record, they voted to approve amendments to reduce the eliminate expansion of Huntingtown, Lusby, Prince Frederick, and the Solomons Town Centers. Table 1 reflects documents reviewed and/or documents and projects. Table 1 reflects documents, the projects reviewed and/or acted on, proposed amendments to the Calvert County Comprehensive Plan, Master Plan, and that's other than the Town Center Master Plans, programs, updates, or amendments that require a determination of consistency with the adopted comprehensive plan. Next, we'll move on to adequate public facilities. Adequate public facilities regs are growth management tools, as a growth management tool that facilitates orderly development and growth in accordance to the comprehensive plan. Adequate public facility regulations were adopted in 1988 for roads and schools. The comp plan was amended in 2022 and includes actions to consider potential changes to the APF regulations for roads to periodically change those, and for schools to adjust if necessary, and to consider expanding the regulations to include water and sewer, stormwater management, solid waste and recycling, fire, rescue, emergency management services, and law enforcement. The APF requirements were adopted on November the 30th, 2022. The adoption enables the county to provide adequate public facilities in a timely manner and to control the comprehensive plan growth objectives. You also received 2 reports in the spring and fall that give you the status of the adequate public facility for public schools, and they were prepared by Planning and Zoning staff and reviewed by the Planning Commission. The Prince Frederick Town Center Master Plan and Dunkirk updates. The Planning Commission endorsed a 3-phase process to update the Town Center Master Plans for Dunkirk and Prince Frederick. The phases were identified as issue identification, plan development, and adoption. Table 3 and 4 of the document shows the times that the PC reviewed and/or acted on the Prince Frederick Town Center Master Plan in the plan development phase. In Table 4, which is the Dunkirk Town Center Master Plan, in the issue identifications phase to plan development phase in 2022. Next, we would look at zoning. Zoning involves any work related to the proposed changes in the adopted zoning maps, which are usually map amendments, or zoning ordinances, which usually are text amendments. These duties include, but are not necessarily limited to, work sessions with staff and consultants, public outreach, review of public comments, conducting public hearings and/or joint public hearings. The Maryland Annotated Code for Land Use, Section 204 BV, states that the purpose of the map amendment is to change the zoning classifications. The legislative body shall make findings that address the recommendations of the Planning Commission regarding consistency of the application with the comprehensive plan. Generally, the Planning Commission findings and recommendations are then forwarded to the BOCC and signed into resolution for consideration. And Table 5 outlines those related projects. Next, we would go to development review. And the primary responsibility in reviewing proposed development projects is to determine compliance with the adopted comprehensive plan and any other pertinent master plans, to find that the projects meet all of the applicable ordinances and regulations that, with certain conditions if necessary, and consider appeals of decisions or recommendations rendered by the architectural review committees and/or Department of Planning and Zoning staff. The Maryland Annotated Code for Land Use requires that the BOCC establish and maintain a separate planning commission for the review and approval of subdivision applications. The Planning Commission's authority to review and approve site plan applications has been delegated to them from the BOCC. In turn, the Planning Commission has delegated lesser development review duties to the Planning Commission administrator and/or the zoning officer. Compilation of this information helps the planning and zoning staff to estimate work volumes as required, that may be required in the upcoming year, to appropriately assign workloads and identify emerging development trends and patterns as a tool for long-range planning. The information provided reflects the type of and number of development applications that have been submitted to Department of Planning and Zoning in 2022. Table 7 is a summary of all development applications processed and approved by a plan type. It shows the different categories of subdivisions and site plans. The final numbers reviewed were a total of 63 site plans and 20 subdivisions for a total of 83 plans. Applications that required Planning Commission approval are specifically shown on Table 8. Chart A represents a comparison of numbers of development review applications between 2019 and 2022. I just want you all to note that the types of applications listed do not represent the applications processed by staff, only those included in the county's tracking system, in the IPS tracking system. In 2022, there were 83 applications processed. 2019, there were 285, and in 2020, there were 226, and in 2021, there were 254 applications. That created a 21% drop between 2019 and 2020, and an increase of approximately 9% in 2020 and 2021, an approximate drop of 66% between 2021 and 2022. Table 9 represents exceptions, reconsiderations, and other requests heard by the Planning Commission, and they considered one item in 2022. Table 10 shows 12 TEG, which are Technical Evaluation Group, and SEG Subdivision Evaluation Group meetings held by the PCA in 2022. Table 11 represents the 2022 architectural review applications by type and process. There were a total of 69 applications reviewed. 24 were residential, 45 were non-residential. Also, just to note to the Planning Commission, 39%, which equals 27 applications, were reviewed by the committees, and 61%, equaling 42 applications, were reviewed by staff. It should be noted that the Solomon's Architectural Review Committee was the only committee to routinely review applications and achieve a quorum throughout 2022. Table 12 indicates no architectural review applications were elevated to the Planning Commission. For administrative actions, in accordance with the Maryland Annotated Code of Land Use, Section 2-105I, a Planning Commission shall adopt rules for conduct of its business, keep records of its resolutions, transactions, findings, and determinations. The Planning Commission must engage in a common set of functions throughout the year to meet the organization's goals and responsibilities. These tasks consist of, but are not limited to, preparing an annual meeting schedule, conducting regular and special meetings, holding public hearings, participating on joint public hearings with the BOCC, reviewing the adoption of meeting minutes, reviewing and updating operating documents, electing officers, preparing an annual report to the Maryland Department of Planning, and attending trainings and conferences. Table 13 shows the Planning Commission's attendance for 2022. Table 14 shows administrative actions by the Planning Commission in 2022 by date and type. So that concludes my presentation of the annual report. This document has been provided for informational purposes and no action is required. And at this time, I ask the board for any comments or questions regarding the report.
Did you say no action is requested?
No action is requested.
Do we need to send it to the Board of County Commissioners for review?
Yes, we do. If you would like to direct staff to send the report, we can entertain that now.
I have a question first before we move any further. Is there a delay in architectural review applications when the committee's not able to make a quorum, or does staff address it at the same time?
Jen, you want to address it? You can.
Sure.
Yeah.
Jenny Plummer Walker, Long Range Planner, Planning and Zoning. So when the committee is not able to achieve a quorum, it goes to staff for review, so there is no delay for to the next month for the committee meeting. And with the revisions, the amendments that were done in 2017, the committee has one opportunity to review the application, and also the committees are to hold 2 meetings a month if necessary.
And are the attendance of the committee members tracked like
Yes.
planning commission members?
Yes, they are.
And if you fail to attend X number of meetings,
Action can be taken to remove that member.
has it ever been done?
I don't know.
Do we have full committees on a regular basis? Are they staffed? Is the issue that the people that are there not coming, or is that they're not there? They're
So
not
it
members?
depends on the committee. There are 7 architecture review committees. St. Leonard does not have, not only not a full membership, but doesn't even have 3 for a quorum. So St. Leonard we are seeking members
Right.
for many of the committees, including, as I found out today, Huntingtown, there'll be a vacancy.
So we need people for Huntingtown and St. Leonard. Are there seeing that I know there's people out there listening, are there other committees?
They can check the website, is kept maintained by the county administrator's office staff on what vacancies we do have.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Jenny.
Thank you.
So if the planning commission at this time would like for us to prepare the report to send to the BOCC, we can entertain that discussion and motion.
Commissioners, the floor is yours.
Madam Chair, I would move that we forward the report to the county commissioners for their review.
Second.
I have a motion by Commissioner Tui, seconded by Commissioner Freeland. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Okay, before we move on, we're going to go back to item 13B. I will hand it over to Pam Lucas.
Yes, my apologies. I was trying to tap Ms. Blake Wallace before she moved on, but she moved too swiftly for me. With respect to a subcommittee discussing the role of the chairperson, that's also going to affect the rules of procedure as well, depending on what the subcommittee recommends to the full board and what the full board decides to do based on the recommendation of the subcommittee. So it would be conducive for the subcommittee to consider the existing bylaws or a draft of the bylaws with respect to the draft of the rules and procedures as well simultaneously, and then circulate them amongst the full board, and then make a decision on that. So it would entail the original, the motion that was made for 13B earlier to be retracted, and then another motion to be made with respect to reviewing both together. Because it would affect the rules of procedure as well, because the chairperson's role is outlined in the rules of procedure as well.
Would it also be feasible to make a single motion to have that subcommittee also look at the rules and procedures?
Correct. But but in the interim, before that, you approved the draft rules of procedures. So you
Understood.
would have to,
Retract.
exactly,
So we'd have to retract the approval
yes,
and then a new motion
yes,
to instruct the subcommittee to
review
look at
both,
the rules.
yes.
Okay.
My apologies.
I don't know how to retract a motion, so I can't do that.
Can we get guidance? How would we state?
Retracting the motion.
Yes, you would just, someone would make a motion that the previous motion would be retracted, however it was stated, and then we'll go back. You would make a motion on that, the board would make a determination, and then you would make a new motion.
Does it have to be the person who made the motion to make the motion to retract it?
I don't think it's necessary. Certainly, for consistency's sake, that could be done.
And who was that?
It looks like it may have been yourself, Commissioner Gadway.
That's it.
Okay, so-
I just wanted to double check.
Greg Kernan is making a motion and Chris Gadway.
Okay.
This was your
Second,
second,
Kieran
yeah.
and Gadway, okay.
Okay.
And it really is more than just a technicality. I don't mean to be an authority on Robert's rules, but you should have the person who made this motion and voted for it to make the motion to change it.
Sure.
I don't believe I made the motion, but I'll retract it though, okay? Just-
And I'll retract my second,
all right,
or
thank you.
vice versa.
All right, thank you, thank you.
So, at that point, we would need to vote on the retraction?
Yes.
Okay.
Motion by me, second by him. I made the motion to retract.
Okay, so are you will make a new motion.
Don't we have to vote?
Well, you have to
Yes,
retract
vote
this
on
one
the
first and
retraction.
vote on it,
Vote on
and then do a
retraction
new
first,
motion.
and
But
then-
you haven't made the motion.
He just did.
I just did.
Oh, okay, and you seconded it?
Yes.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Retraction carries.
Now a motion to,
Yes.
I'd like to make a motion that we ask the subcommittee to also look at the
rules and procedures
rules and
and
procedures,
bylaws.
thank you. Rules and procedures while they look at the bylaws and report findings back to the full committee.
Second.
I have a motion by Commissioner Gadway, seconded by Commissioner Kernan. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we're going to move on to election of officers. Election for Planning Commission officers will take place this year and expire next year at the next annual meeting. So next on the agenda is that item 13D. The secretary would like to remind the Planning Commission that the elected officers for the upcoming year, as I said, will serve for the complete year until the annual meeting. Madam Chair, would you like for me as the secretary to conduct the election of the chair?
Yes.
Okay. As the secretary, I am now seeking nominations from the floor for the office of the chair. Is there-
Nominate Maria Bueller for chair.
Second.
Okay, it has been approved and seconded. Any discussion? Everyone in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Abstain.
Okay. Are there any further nominations? Okay, with no other nominations, I will then now turn the meeting over to the chairman to conduct nominations for vice chair.
Thank you, and thank you to my fellow commissioners also. I will now entertain a motion for vice chair.
I would like to make a motion that we keep Mr. Kernan as vice chair.
Second.
I have a motion by Commissioner Tui, a second by Commissioner Gadway. All those in favor? Opposed?
Abstain.
Are there any other nominations? Congratulations. Thank you.
Congratulations, you two.
Thank you, and we look forward to you all serving again as chair and vice
Thank you,
chair.
Tamara.
Next on the agenda is adjournment.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion by Commissioner Tui, seconded by Commissioner Freeland. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We're adjourned. Thank you all for attending this evening's meeting. Enjoy the rest of your